Hey guys, we had a question from somebody recently asking about table charges in Japan. So we haven't covered that before. We thought it might be worth looking at. It's not so common outside the big cities. It tends to be a bit of a big city thing. It is a traditional thing. Usually what it is in places like izakaya, so traditional restaurants, traditional Japanese restaurants and bars. They have what they call otoshi, and they usually bring you something. When you first sit down, they bring you some edamame, some of the peas or some sort of snack food thing. And that's sort of a gift, but at the same time, they charge usually between about 150 yen, 500 yen, 500 yen would probably be about average, I guess, per person. So that's your table charge. That's just for taking up space in their restaurant, basically. So it tends to be more in the big city than it is in the countryside. You don't sort of get it in the countryside as much. There is some stories about people being overcharged that table charge, particularly foreigners. It does happen. The other thing that sometimes happens too is the prices of the drinks. Sometimes the table charge might be only small, but the prices of the drinks might be bumped up. So you might be paying 800 yen or 1,000 yen for a drink or something like that. So it does happen, and it is a little bit difficult for foreigners to avoid, unfortunately, because unless your level of Japanese is really, really good, it might be written on the menu what the table charge is, or it might be written on the menu that there is a table charge, or it's very difficult. So the only real way to protect yourself is to ask the staff when you first go in, is there a table charge? And again, you're going to require a fairly decent level of Japanese to be able to do this properly, but ask if there's a table charge and how much it is per person, and check the drink prices before you order is probably about the only way. This isn't real common. It tends to be in the Gaijin ghetto parts of Tokyo, or the Roppongi and around there, the places where the foreigners hang out tends to be places where this sort of stuff happens. In the traditional parts where there's no foreigners, it doesn't sort of happen as much. So it's a bit of a foreigner trap by some of the less ethical people, the business operators. So the other thing is that quite often in those environments, often those guys are actually supported by Yakuza. So if you do find yourself presented with a bill that's more than you thought it would be, there's not a lot you can do. If you end up with any sort of major conflict, you can ask the owner, look, can you reduce this? This is a bit high. But if they say no, there's not really a lot you can do. You'll probably lose. If they are protected by Yakuza, then you don't really want to go down that track. That could get bad if they make a phone call. But even if they're not, they could call the police, because like most countries, it's an offence to run up a bill and then not pay it. And if the police came, and you said you didn't know or whatever, it would be a bit of a waste of time. So there's not a lot you can do really, except to check when you first go in, is there a table charge, and how much is it, and how much are the drinks, and make sure that you understand that when you first sit down. Unfortunately, there's not really much better solution than that. Once you're presented with the bill, it's pretty much game over. You can try, ask them if they'll reduce it, but they probably won't, and they'll call you bluff, and there's not much you can do. This isn't common. I think what catches people out is Tokyo, and it's a big city, and the costs there are higher than they are in other parts of Japan. And this can happen in Osaka and other cities as well. But yeah, in the bigger cities, costs are higher. So, people can get caught, coming here and having a big night out in Tokyo and suddenly get a bill for $200. It can happen. It can happen. So, it doesn't necessarily mean that the business operator is shady. It can be just that the Tokyo prices are a lot higher than what you were used to where you come from. So the only advice we can really give is to be cautious, and accept that if you do get a big bill that you weren't expecting, that now you'll be expecting it. It's possible. It is possible that you could get presented with a big bill in a izakaya or another restaurant or bar in a big city in Japan. It happens. Doesn't necessarily mean the business owner is shady. It can just happen. The other thing is too, that's normal izakaya restaurant bars. The other one is too, we mentioned on another video once before about snack bars. So like girly bars, you know, where you go in and the girls come and talk to you. Those places can be really expensive. So if you choose to go into one of those places, look out, because those places can be extremely expensive, and you can get bitten big time there. They can have by the hour charges in those places. So even if you think I'll just drink really slowly and only have a little bit, it could be that they could be charging you $150 an hour in a place like that. It's quite possible. You know, some nice girl will come along and talk to you, and you think, oh, this is all very nice, but you could be paying $150 an hour for her to talk to you. So you've got to be really careful in places like that. That's where you could get really bitten. You know, they could present you with a bill for $500, $600 easily in a place like that. So you have to really watch what you're doing there. If you don't know what it's about, and you don't know where you are exactly, you don't know exactly what it is and how much everything is, if you're not clear about all of that, you've got to be really careful. And those are the places where you could meet dangerous operators. You know, snacks quite often are Yakuza controlled, and you know, you end up owing those guys $500 or $600, you better be coming up with it, because it could end up being a real problem for you. And again, don't expect the police to help you out of a situation like that. It'll just be, you know, too bad, pay the money, you know. You could get arrested. It's quite possible. If you don't pay the bill, quite possibly you could get arrested. So you'll be really careful in those places. Make sure that you know what you're doing. And again, give them your credit card, and you could end up with a big charge on your credit card. So yes, that's the snack, that's the girly bars. But yeah, even in normal izakaya, it's possible that you could have a table charge here. So it's not really common. I think usually in Japan, people are pleasantly surprised by the prices at the moment. At the moment, compared to a lot of other big countries in the world, the prices for restaurants and drinking and so on in Japan is pretty good compared with a lot of other countries. But if you go to the big cities, then you could be paying big city prices, you know. So be aware, just be aware of it. So anyway, hope that helped. Bit of a heads up anyway. More videos coming soon.